I'd like to say it's another beautiful day in North Carolina, but right now it's not so beautiful. I was going to do my 700-mile ride today and film some of that, but at this point I'm not sure whether I'm going to get out or not. It started sprinkling just as soon as I came out of the house. I did manage to get out this morning and do some riding. It was a beautiful day. It was in the mid 70-degree range and partly sunny, so it was a nice ride. So I got back and I said, well, I'm coming right up on 700 miles. Why don't I do just a 700-mile review of my Polarna and show you some of the features on the bike and everything. So what I do right now, since I can't go out and ride right this second, I'm going to go ahead and just show you some of the things that I put on this bike, some of the modifications that I've made. So let me get the camera over here and show you some of those. Okay, I'll start out with some of the things I feel like are necessary on this bike. The first thing that's really necessary is the freewheel on it. I got the freewheel that came on this bike. It was actually making a knocking noise, but I had planned on replacing it anyway since the stock one has a 13 cog high gear on it. I wanted to go to 11 cog high gear to get my, so I had planned to replace it anyway with a 11 tooth cog, so I replaced it with 11-32T to replace the stock 13-28. So I've got a little bit higher gear and a little bit lower gear, so I've got the best of both worlds on it. And I really think if you're going to go above class 2 riding, you need to do this modification. If you plan on going over 20 miles an hour, you need to upgrade the freewheel on this bike. We'll go around and look. Of course, it comes with the Altus Shimano derailleur on it, and I found it to be a fairly decent derailleur. It's not top of the line, but it's not bottom of the line either. And we've got the 52-tooth chain ring on the front, which I think is necessary. I have had the chain to jump off this bike once. It did around about 300 miles of riding. So I went and it comes with an outer chain guard on it. And what I did was I went ahead and bought me an inner chain guard or another chain guard and put it on the inside. And what this does, this keeps it from jumping off when you hit a bump or something, and it seems to be working fairly well. Okay, the next thing I did, of course, I put my mirror on it, and I like this handlebar end mirror because it throws the mirror out far enough that your arms or shoulders don't get in the way. So even though it's a small mirror, it's really plenty big. And the next thing I did, I changed the grips out. And what I've got some gel grips on it now, and I was having trouble with numbness. And of course you see that I've changed the handlebars out, and these are the fully adjustable handlebars. I did a video on that, so I won't go into detail, but I just love these adjustable handlebars. You can put them anywhere you want to. And right down here is another little auxiliary battery I've got. It's a USB battery, and I've got it hooked into this cell phone, which I keep on the bike all the time. This is one of my oldest cell phones. And so rather than keeping it in a drawer, I said, I'll just permanently mount it on my bike. And it had a weak battery in it, but since I've got it hooked here to the cell phone and it works off this battery, then I don't have that problem. Also, what I did, I had laying in the drawer too an old dash cam, and I took that dash cam and I said, well, you know, it's not much weight, it's not doing any good in the drawer, let me just throw it on this bike. So I've got dash cam on this bike, which, you know, you may need dash cam on your bike as much so as you would need one on your car, really, but I've got that there, and it's linked in to the USB port, which is on my controller. So it's connected back here to that USB, and so when I cut on my bike, this automatically comes on. That's one of the modifications that I've made. And of course, I've got a cup holder here, and I decided to utilize this cup holder really to hold my horn. So I've got an air horn here to get the attention of the drivers, because they certainly need it sometimes. And what I did on the back side of the bracket for the water bottle, the cup bracket, is I took and I made another bracket right here that goes into those same holes. I made this, and I got these screws, and that lends me a perfect place to clip on my pepper spray. So that clips right onto that. Another modification, I carry 2 strobes on here, and I've got these strobes. They've got 4 different positions. So what I do is I cycle them on like so. And that's what I ride with in the daytime. Also at nighttime, you can put these on solid, and it'll complement the one that comes on your bike. I don't do any nighttime riding, so that's not an issue for me. The headlight, I know a lot of people do nighttime riding, and the lights that come on these bikes are really not sufficient for a good beam out in front of you. But anyway, then also on here, what I put on here is a voltmeter. Since I've got my little scale that I made down here, got this little scale that I made, which tells you what percentage of battery level you have when you at a certain voltage level. So I needed a voltmeter. This bike did not come with a voltmeter, which I was somewhat surprised. Of course, as soon as I cut my power on, it tells me at what voltage level I'm at. And it's important, I run an auxiliary battery, so it's important that when you ride that you have your auxiliary battery, if you're going to run them together, to have it in unison with your primary battery. They both should carry the same voltage. And as you can see also, I've got this little be sold bag on the front, and I keep my regular cell phone in this bag. Zip it open, I slip it in, then I zip it closed, and I keep my regular cell phone there. Got compartments on either side of it, which is nice for putting in, different little things. I'll put my keys in here and a few other things. My wallet, if I'm carrying that with me, I'll put that in there. Things I can get to real quickly without having to go into my rear bag. The next bag I've got down here, that's my little tool bag, and I've got it placed in here with Velcro, and I put a little Velcro on my fender here to help hold this from slipping. So that's my tool bag right there. Then anybody that watches my videos realize that I use an auxiliary battery, and the auxiliary battery is in this pack. This carrying case came with my auxiliary battery. You have to pay for it extra. I think it's about $10. But I couldn't use it on my other bike because I didn't have enough room in here. But I realized that I could use it on this bike, so I went ahead and said, well, let me free up some space in my rack bag, because this is where I normally keep the battery. Let me free up some space and put it out here. So it works fine. It's got a little zipper at the top, and I zipper it open so I can get access to my recharging wire, which is right in there. Close it back up, and it closes up fairly tightly. That's my switch to my auxiliary battery. And of course, in the rear, I've also got strobe lights that I've got in the rear that I run with, and so there's strobe lights in the rear. And of course you can see that I've got a Cloud 9 seat. I've tried the bike roo, was my first seat that I bought, and I had my bike roo to split right in here after about 1,600 miles. And so I replaced it with this seat. And I've got on this seat probably close to 3,000 miles now, and I don't have any rippage. So as far as durability, this cover seems to be a lot more durable than the one that came on my roof. And down here I've got my suspension seat post, which I like this style. I did have the up and down type, and this really works a lot, but it rotates, and I really like the way that it worked. Of course, the other thing, I changed out my tires. I changed to the Kinder Gray, and I like these tires. I've run through one set on my electric, and I got over about right at 4,000 miles out of the rear tire, and the front tire could still go for another 1,000 or 2 miles. So I've got good mileage out of these tires. And of course, anybody familiar with the Polarna know that it has these Logan levers, which is a fully hydraulic brake system, which I really like that. It's just a world of difference between that brake system and a mechanical. These hydraulic, I did on my electric, I changed out the mechanical calipers on it to hydraulic, but there's still no comparison between that and these fully hydraulic. This does have a 160 millimeter disc on it, which I wish it had a 170, but probably the 160 is fine for this bike. I'm in a flat area, I don't have many hills, so I don't have my brakes engaged for any length of time. And it's got plenty of stopping power. And the larger disc gives you a little more stopping power, and it doesn't heat up quite as much, but I really don't have that problem where I live. I put the toe clips on my pedal, and this is mainly to position my foot properly on my pedals. I rode with toe clips for years when I did cross-country cycling, so I was used to full toe clips and biking shoes and everything. But I decided on this one that I would put them on there just for positioning, if nothing else. And also on this bike, I've got the quick release pedals. I took the folding pedals off because they do have a couple of issues with it. These are real simple to get off. You just pull them right off like so and get them out of the way, and then when you get ready to put them back on, hard to do this with one hand, just go ahead and snap it back in place. Also on here, this is a little cadence sensor right here for my cadence. And what I've got on my cadence, and what I've got on the rear, I have this Rock Bros rear rack bag, which I really like. It's got plenty of storage space. This right here actually flips up, so it gives you about 50% more storage space than it is right now just by coming up. Each one of these side compartments, you can store things in it, plus each one of them has a pannier that comes out and goes down. So each one of them has a pannier on it if you need that much extra storage, so it's a great bag. I've also got on here, and it's hard to see because it's tucked up under here, but right up under here I have a bike alarm on it. and I keep my unit fit right here, so I can, in conjunction with my bike lock, I can keep that secure. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I'm gonna do. Is when I get ready to ride the bike, I'll go over some of this software and everything that I use when I'm riding. And of course, the infamous problems people have been having with their fenders coming off. I did put an extra bracket down here for my fenders, so just in case the stock one, which is under this bag, breaks as it has on some other people's bike, it's got this extra precaution down here. And the kickstand on this bike I do like. It's an adjustable kickstand. Most of them, when they come, the bike's sitting too upright. I like for it to lean over more so it won't have a tendency to fall over. So I adjusted this one down. It's got a big foot on it, so that helps when you're on the ground surface. And of course, you have your brake light and tail light comes stock on this Polarna. The headlight on this Polarna, for what it is a fairly decent headlight. You know, it by no means is something that I'd want to use if I was riding a lot at night. I would get me another one, but it works fine. And of course, you've got your full suspension, your rear suspension, and your front suspension. It's got your lockout on it. Over on the other side, load adjustment. So it's pretty much got all that you need. Okay, guys. The rain did break, so let's see if I can't get out and ride a little bit, and we'll turn this bike over to 700 miles. So right now, what I'll do is I'll go through my starting sequence so y'all can see how I start up everything. Okay. I run this Coolnick app. That's usually one of my favorite apps as far as getting accurate mileage and things such as that. So I've got it on. What I use to monitor my heart rate and my cadence, I use this Wahoo app. Cut on my heart rate to come up. Next, what I'll do is I'm going to cut on my auxiliary battery. And if you notice, my voltmeter comes on. That was the auxiliary. That's my primary. Okay, that's up. So now I will cut it on. I'll hit my on switch. And the Polarna controller comes on. Now, as you see, I've got 51.1 volts, and according to my scale over here, and I don't have my glasses on, I think that's 80%. So I'm off a little bit. You know, it says 73. It's off in the mid-range. This thing's real good on the high end and the low ends as far as the accuracy of this. I've been doing a lot of adjustments on it, and I finally got it. As long as I've got that lower end set pretty well, and the upper end, those middle ranges don't bother me that much because I don't really use that percentage gauge anyhow. I use the voltmeter. So let me push this thing around and out. And as you notice down here on the odometer, I've got 697 miles. So 3 more miles, I'll have 700 miles on it. Also, what I like about this too, you've got a little map. So it's got a map right there that you can pull up anytime you want to on that Wahoo app. Okay, let's get underway here. I'll go ahead and put it in, I'll put it in mode 3 just to start off with. I've readjusted, I've got my PES settings for 9 PES modes. I've got 0 through 9. And I have readjusted them since my last video. I brought the lower end up a little bit. And the sun has come back out. Oh man, this weather's something else. Something else. When I started out a while ago, 30 minutes ago, I was going to go out and ride, and the sky was completely covered with clouds, and it started sprinkling. And now, got a lot of trees around, so I can't see the horizon. But over my head, not any clouds at all. Just blue sky. Okay, back to my bike. Coming up on 700 miles on this bike. What are my thoughts? Well, I'm really liking this bike. Since I've made all my changes to it. Got the seat like I like it, with the suspension on it. It's just a very soft ride with the rear suspension on the bike and the seat post suspension and the seat itself. I can't complain at all. It's really great. And the handlebars, I love my handlebars. I've got plenty of room on them to put things, and as you can see, I've got a lot of things on them, and I can adjust them any way I want to. This bike has a tendency to have the It's got a long handlebar stem on it. It's probably a good 2 to 3 inches longer than the one on my electric. So the handlebars, you can't drop them with so much. So when I put these modified adjustable handlebars on it, I had to put those in a lower position than I had them on my electric. I just re-swiveled these brackets here, and it works fine. Okay, I'm gonna go up 4. Now I've got the cruise control set in 3. A lot of times when I ride around the neighborhood, I will set my cruise control at a lower level than I want to travel. Like right now I'm in PAS 4 and my cruise control is set to PAS 3. And one advantage in doing that is that when you come up to make a turn, you don't and you don't hit your brakes. In other words, it's a turn where you won't have to hit your brakes. You just quit pedaling and your bike will slow down so you can make that turn. And then when you start pedaling, it will return back to that PAS. For example, I'm getting ready to make a left turn here. I just quit pedaling. My speed breaks down a little bit. Okay, now it's hitting its cruise at that level. Now I start pedaling, and it picks up. And so now I'm going at the next highest PAS level. I'm going to 4. I haven't done much off-road with this, but I did manage about 2 weeks ago to take it to one of the local trails around here. And in doing so, I had a chance to, not really off-road, but still trail riding. But as you can see right here, if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm not really on a train ride now, but still my cadence is up about where I like it. I like it close to 80, going downhill now, so it's going to speed up a little bit and I'll go up a gear. And then when I hit the bottom down here from that hill, there it starts leveling off and I'm actually going upgrade a little bit. I'll drop my gearing back a little. And it helps keep me up around that range, anywhere from 75 to 85. That's kind of where I want to keep my cadence. And when I get to this turn up here, all I have to do is just quit pedaling and the speed drops off. And I start pedaling and then I start picking back up. Oh yeah. Sky is just as clear now. And it was fully overcast a while ago. You couldn't see any blue anywhere 35, 40 minutes ago. Plus it was sprinkling. Got it in 3. I went up a hill. Okay, the cruise control's locked in on 3. At the top of the hill. Go ahead and shift it into 4. Going downhill slightly. And I'm starting to go uphill again a little bit. I'll drop back on a gear. Keep my cadence up. So another thing that I've made reference to, and I'll make reference right here and show you a good example. Okay, you see the percentage gauge, it's at 62, and my voltage is right at 49.9 to 50. I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna sit here for about a minute. Just sit here, and you'll see how the voltage and that percentage will start going up. And it usually takes, to get a fairly accurate reading of your voltage, it usually takes about 2 minutes. And it also depends on how hard you've been riding it. It will stabilize, if you haven't been riding it very hard, which I haven't, I've been riding it very lightly, it will stabilize much quicker than 2 minutes. So see, it may already be stabilized. I don't see it moving much. But both your percentage and your voltage will go up because they're proportionally related to each other. And as soon as I start putting the power on it, you'll watch it and you'll see it start going down. And the more wattage that goes to the motor, the farther down it will go. So, Okay, right now I'm at about 700 watts, thereabouts, 800, thereabouts. And the voltage dropped. Okay, I'm going to drop back to 3. And I'm going to reset the cruise in 3. And I'm going on a slight incline, not much, but a little bit. And that affects the speed. You'd be surprised how much just the slightest incline will affect your speed. Matter of fact, I'll show you an example. I'm on a very, very slight incline here. I'm going to make a U-turn and see where the speed is here and watch the speed go up when I go in the other direction. We'll keep it in the same setting. Okay, see the speed automatically went up to 12.8, so 12.9. So see, it's well over, good gosh, see, it's way over what it was. And this is just that was just a slight incline, just enough for you to kind of feel like you're going uphill slightly, feel like you're going downhill. I mean, it was very slight, but you can see the difference, about 2 miles per hour difference. In my previous videos, I've tried to, everybody's always talking about range and speed and everything, and they want to know how fast it is and how far it is. And that question is so subjective. You can really use a formula and come close to figuring out what your range is going to be. And I've showed those formulas, and they're fairly accurate because there is nothing that's going to be 100% accurate. It just won't be. Still a few clouds in the sky over here toward the south. I think that's south. See there, I didn't hit start on my Wahoo. So I didn't hit start, but I hit start right then. So now it's to move. I had a bad habit of doing that. I say a bad habit. It happens maybe 1 out of every 10 rides. I'll forget to hit the start button, which is kind of a shame because I can't really compare. I was going to show you a comparison. And look at that, 700 miles. I have gone 700 miles on this bicycle. I just hope it holds up. I really like this bike. I had doubts about the way the controller worked when I first started riding it because it's so different from my electric. But I have to admit, I really prefer this over the electric now that I've gotten used to it, especially since I can do a lot more programming with this one than the electric. Electric was locked in on its PAS modes. You couldn't change them. You had 5 and you had to live with them. The only thing you could do was change it from a class 2 to a class 3, which opened up the top 2 PAS modes. But other than that, that was the only way you could modify your PAS on your electric. And this one is just, it's endless. You can make your PAS any speed you want to. Anywhere from 28 miles an hour down, you can set them where you want them. I rode my electric the other day, not to be knocking the electric. Electric's a good bike. Now, I had a version 1. So the version 2, I really can't speak too much for it since they put 3-inch tires on them. And they have a front suspension now on them, which they didn't have on the version 1. But I could tell a lot of difference. I really prefer this bike over that one. I thought maybe I'd ride that one a little bit more than I do. I kept it as kind of my backup bike, but as it stands now, I'll probably end up selling it. My wife still has her electric step through, and I rode it the other day. How you doing? So you've got an electric bike. You built it. Yeah, it looked like a standard frame. What kind of bike is that? This is a Polarna. Okay, I'm back up. And not too many e-bike riders around my area. I live in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Town's about 55,000 people. There's a few e-bikes around here, but not many. So after 700 miles, what am I finding? Well, I like this bike. What I paid for it, which was $13.49, it was a hell of a deal. Didn't expect good customer service or customer support. Haven't had to use them, so I've been lucky that way. And of course, I'm not the type of person that won't get into these bikes and work on them when they need to be worked on. And I realize a lot of people that purchase them are not that mechanically inclined. And for those people, I would recommend finding a very reputable seller. If you live in an area that's got a bike shops or several bike shops sell e-bikes, you may want to go through them so they will give you the support you need as far as repairs and things go, because these bikes will break. You can buy cheap ones and they may hold up and have great success with them, and you can buy expensive ones and they may break the first day. They're just unpredictable. So if you're not the type of person that can work on these bikes, it would be to your advantage to find you a reputable bike shop. Even if it's within 50 miles, I could find one around this area, but I can't find anybody in this town that I live in. But I could go up to Raleigh in that area, and there are reputable bike shops up there I could have purchased one of these from. Would I recommend the Polarna? Yes, definitely would. Would I recommend my electric XP? Yes, I definitely would. And they've made a few changes on the 2.0, which the front suspension I think is a plus factor. It's not a total necessity. I've ridden my version 1 without the front suspension, with any suspension, and it's not that hard a ride really. It's if you're not going to go off-road, it's fairly forgiving as far as hitting bumps and things on a road. But if you plan on doing any off-road or any trails that may be a little rough, then the suspension is certainly a plus factor. And for general comfort, it's a plus factor. For example, where I'm riding right now, the pavement has these little ripples all in it. And I can really notice on my XP the ripples in the road. And this one, I'm going over them right now. They're there, but they're not that bad. So I'm going to make my turn here, and I'm going to be going in. And that's going to conclude this video. So I certainly appreciate y'all watching it. Hope y'all gained something from it. If not, I hope y'all enjoyed it. So until next time, y'all have a nice day.